I can't rewrite the past, but I can refuse to carry its silence, especially when the truth is still waiting to be heard. This isn't about guilt. It's about witnessing, standing in the long shadow of injustice, and choosing not to look away. I wasn't there when the chains were fastened, when the names were stripped, when entire lineages were shattered for profit. But I was born in the image of those who benefited, and I know that matters. Whether I asked for it or not, history has placed something at my feet, and now I choose to carry it. I don't carry the whip, but I carry its legacy, and if I stay silent, I become part of its echo. So this isn't a gesture. It's a turning point, a small offering in the direction of repair. I'm sorry that your beauty was treated like a threat, that your joy had to wear armor, that your grief was policed before it was ever held. I'm sorry the world tried to cage your brilliance, shrinking you to fit a story that you never wrote, and still expected your grace while handling the weight of it all. I'm sorry it took this long to say this, to mean it, to feel it in the body. Your pain was not an accident, it was engineered. And I'm standing here now to say, I see it, and I will not pretend otherwise. I don't come with answers, I come with reverence, a willingness to listen longer than I speak, to walk beside you without needing to be seen. Because healing doesn't happen in declarations. It happens in devotion, in the quiet choices we make when no one's watching, to show up differently than those who came before us. In this apology, it's not closure. It's conservation. A vow to break the spell of silence, to name what was buried, to become the kind of ancestor who turns pain into protection and privilege into presence. I can't undo the past, but I can help carry the future, not for you, but with you. Because dignity is not something I give, it's something I honor, and your liberation has always been divine. They weren't wrong, Black people. They were robbed, stolen from, and what was taken from them, their bodies, their brilliance, their birthright, was used to build this country's wealth, brick by stolen brick. That theft didn't disappear, it transformed into banks, into boardrooms, into billionaires, into the very bones of corporate America, the same machine that's still screwing all of us today. You think you're struggling because you didn't grind hard enough? No. You're struggling because they started the race before you were even born, and they stole the finish line. This is the same game of Monopoly, but they kept all the deeds, took the cash, and handed the rest of us a rigged deck. And now, we're dying. From lack of health care, from food designed to poison us, from stress and survival and systems that were never built for our thriving. Look at politics. It's hard to recognize anymore. Sometimes it feels like no matter who's in power, the people still lose. Because greed doesn't just wear one color, and too often the voices shouting the loudest are the ones listening to the least of us. I try not to look because, not that I don't care, but because it breaks my heart. Still, maybe that ache is the calling. Maybe I wasn't meant to look away. Maybe my voice was made to break the silence, to carry the truth, to fight with love when the world forgets how. Because that's why I'm doing this. Not for attention or applause, but because staying silent feels like betrayal, and love demands we speak. Because the cure for racism is connection. It's not just laws and marches, it's learning each other, listening, letting go of what we were taught so that we can finally see what's true. And when we do, when we really see each other, we stop seeing enemies and start seeing God reflected in billions of beautiful faces that look nothing like our own. We are all just different versions of the same divine spark. And if there's any hope left, any way out of this mess, it starts with the truth, with restoration, and with love loud enough to rattle the gates that kept us apart. They weren't wrong. They were robbed. And it's time to give it back.
What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back once again to this channel. My name is Dev KE, and this is Real Talk Black. So now, in the recent times, Many white Americans have begun to openly recognize and appreciate, the resilience of the Black communities. After centuries of oppression, systemic barriers, and struggles for equality, Black Americans have continued to stand strong, to push forward and to inspire progress in America as a whole. So this resilience is not just about survival. It's about thriving in the face of challenges and contributing powerfully to every area of an American life, from culture, politics, business, science, and beyond. And more and more white Americans are now acknowledging the strength and perseverance of Black people, and how they've shaped the very fabric of the nation. Um, they are acknowledging this by thanking Black Americans for their resilience. They are not only recognized. They are not only recognized their, past struggles with racism, colonization, and all that, but also recognizing the present struggles that they are going through. Um, they are expressing their respect for the courage it takes to keep moving forward despite the adversities that they face. So this growing gratitude reflects a deeper understanding that Black resilience is not just a story of hardship, but a story of triumph and unwavering hope. So as you've seen from this lady, this young lady here, she is quite young, but what she's saying carries some weight, and she speaks the minds of the majority and some truth. What I think and what I feel that many people should be talking about. A famous philosopher says that during the time of oppression, if you decide to remain silent, then you are taking sides with the oppressor. So now it's upon each and everyone to come out to support the blacks, to condemn these acts, that are not so good to them, and just speak out when there is need and when the time is right, like right now. So let's watch a few clips about the same, then round it up with a few thoughts about it. So stay tuned and I'll see you around.
I don't always know the right words to say, because thank you feels too small for all that you've given this world. You've carried centuries of pain, of being overlooked, underestimated, and mistreated, and still, you rise, you create, you lead, you love. You gave us the beat of the drum, the birth of jazz, the soul of blues, the fire of hip-hop, not just music, but medicine. Healing wrapped in rhythm, history set to melody. You turned grief into gospel and survival into song. And while the world often took what you made, your culture, your style, your brilliance, and offered no credit, no safety, and no peace, you kept giving. You built joy in the ruins. You mothered hope. You fathered movements. You made beauty out of ashes and the truth out of silence. You didn't just survive. You redefined what it means to be resilient, to be radiant, to be real. And I need you to know this isn't about guilt. It's about gratitude. It's about finally slowing down, looking you in the eyes, and saying with my whole soul, I see you. I thank you. I honor you. You are not a side note in this world. You are the pulse, the origin, the inspiration behind so much of what moves us. To my Black brothers and sisters, you are brilliance. You are love in motion. You are the melody we can't live without. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure the world remembers it. I appreciate comments like this. I have been told that I'm helping my Black family to heal, that they've been waiting their whole lives to hear the words that are coming out of my mouth come from a white person, that they feel seen and loved and held, and that makes my heart so full. And sometimes it's difficult because I have bipolar, like I've said, and it really is a disease of the heart, of emotions, uncontrollable emotions, intense and deep, overpowering. And with all of the knowledge I've acquired, all of the patience I've been practicing. It is sometimes uncontrollable. And sometimes I'll be holding back feelings because they're uncomfortable, and then something small can blow the dam and open the floodgates. And then you just have to get through it. But getting through it is easier when I have comments like these, because I know I'm needed here. And I know that the pain will all be worth it, because while my deep sense of emotions can be overwhelming and challenging, I also believe it's what makes me who I am. And it's part of the reason people say they feel me through the screen, because I am authentically a very passionate person. How could I be anything else? All I do is feel intensely, an immense love. So, thank you guys. I love you. There are different kinds of racists. Some are carved from hate, fueled by jealousy, anger, and rage. Small people with small minds who believe tearing each other down somehow lifts them up. And then there's another kind, not born of rage, but of ignorance, of never asking, never listening, never caring to understand. But ignorance is no longer innocent. Not when truth lives in the palm of our hands. Not when history is one search away. Not when injustice is written into the very soil we walk on. So go look into redlining. Look into Black Wall Street. Look into the atrocities scattered through the history that still beg for reconciliation. Look with an open heart. And that's why I speak. Because like Rumi once said, what you seek is also seeking you. And that matters because this message will find the ones who are ready to hear it. The ones seeking truth, seeking healing, seeking a way forward. Because this is for them. Because racism built on hate must be exposed, and racism born of ignorance must be unlearned. And the cure for both is knowledge lit by love, and love made real in action. Dear white people, I'm not here to speak for you. I'm here to speak to you. Because I know there are plenty of us that are looking for a way to aid in our Black family struggle. Plenty of us who feel the weight of silence, but don't always know where to begin. We start small, but we start. We start by talking about what we see, especially with those who've never learned. We start by naming the injustices that make others look away, by saying that wasn't right, when a joke cuts deep, when a system favors one skin over another. We start by teaching our kids what wasn't taught to us, the truths about slavery, redlining, segregation, mass incarceration, the truths that we buried because they were too uncomfortable for some of us to face. We start by having real conversations at our tables, with our families, with our friends who don't see color, because that silence is how the cycle keeps spinning. This isn't about guilt, it's about choosing to see, choosing to care, choosing to speak. And I'm asking you, stand with me. Speak when it's hard. Call out injustice even when it's unpopular. Use your voice where it matters, in schools, in the workplaces, in the voting booth, and in everyday conversations. Dear white people, let's be the ones who don't turn away. Let's break the silence, together. This isn't a history lesson. It's a thank you from the deepest part of the heart. From those of us still learning, still fighting ourselves through the fire. To our Black brothers and sisters, thank you for showing us how to rise when the world keeps trying to bury you. You've carried burdens no one should ever have to carry, and still you walk with grace, with joy, with love that reaches beyond pain. You turned oppression into rhythm. You've turned silence into song. You've turned survival into art. And through it all, you still carry love. The kind that doesn't just heal you, it teaches the rest of us how to love ourselves. You've led with more than strength. You've led with spirit, with a softness that doesn't mean weakness, with a fire that doesn't burn, it warms. You've reminded us that beauty exists in all shades, that family isn't always blood, and that our differences were never meant to divide us. They were meant to reflect God back to one another. Even those of us with fire in our hair and skin, who the world wasn't sure what to do with, you made room for us. You saw us. You taught us how to see ourselves. You showed us what rising looks like without losing your heart. What love looks like when it has every reason not to show up, but does anyway. And now we're learning too. Learning to stand beside you, to honor what you've endured, to celebrate what you've created, and to carry your example forward with gratitude, with respect, and with love. So thank you. Black people in this country have been given every reason to carry pain, every reason to feel anger. And when that pain rises as fire, I don't see hate. I see history speaking. I see survival. I see the strength it takes to still be standing. Because anger, too, is a form of love. Love that's been wounded. Love that's been pushed too far. And even in the midst of that fire, I've seen people who choose compassion, choose understanding, choose to lead with a heart that still believes in healing. And on the other side of that history, yes, there were white people that caused harm. That truth cannot be denied. But there were also white people who stood up, who risked their safety, their privilege, their lives, to walk beside our Black brothers and sisters and say, this is not the world we will accept. There have always been helpers, always been healers, on every side in every era. This moment we're in now, it's not about blame, it's not about shame, it's about recognition. It's about reaching across the pain and saying, I see you, I hear you, let's build something better. Because no one sentence can define an entire group of people. We are not one story. We are layered, living, complex human beings, shaped by our past, but not bound to repeat it. And that's what makes this movement so powerful. We're finding each other, not in the loudest voices, but in the clearest hearts. The ones ready to rise, not alone, but together. The ones who seek destruction, they've already learned how to organize. We're still learning, but we're learning fast. Learning how to organize for peace, for justice, for a kind of love that doesn't bypass pain, but transforms it. This is the beginning. This is how we rise. Not divided, but devoted. Not perfect, but powerful. Together.
The Black community has long suffered under the weight of systemic racism and discrimination. As white people, it is our responsibility to use our privilege to support and uplift the Black community. Here are a few ways that we can be better allies. Listen and learn. We need to listen to Black voices and experiences without interrupting or dismissing them. We should educate ourselves on the history of systemic racism and the ways that it continues to impact the Black community today. We should seek out resources, books, and documentaries that help us understand the issues. Next, speak up. We should use our privilege to speak up against racism and discrimination. We should challenge racist comments and behaviors, even if it's uncomfortable. Silence that which perpetuates racism. We should support Black-owned businesses in our communities. We should advocate for policies that support economic justice and equity. Donate to Black-led organizations. Financially support Black-led organizations that are working to address systemic racism and inequality. It can be done through regular contributions or contributing to certain campaigns and initiatives. We should also use our platforms for good as white people. We have access to platforms and audiences that the Black community may not have. We should use our platforms to amplify Black voices and perspectives, raise awareness about issues affecting the Black community, and promote positive change. Be open to feedback and learning from our mistakes, as we will make mistakes along the way. But it's important to acknowledge them, apologize, and learn from them. We should be open to feedback and willing to change our behavior and perspectives as we continue to learn and grow. Being a better ally to the Black community requires a willingness to listen, learn, and take action. It requires us to use our privilege for good, support Black-owned businesses and communities, and speak up against racism and discrimination. It's up to all of us to work towards a more just and equitable society, and being a better ally is an important step. If you like the content and benefit from it, give me a follow. When white people in the United States balk at the idea of paying reparations to Black Americans who descended from slaves, they disagree with the Bible. Reparations are a form of compensation or restitution made to those who have suffered injustice, particularly those in cases of racial inequality, discrimination, and slavery. The idea of paying reparations to Black Americans is not a new one. It has been a topic of discussion for decades, if not centuries. However, it has gained renewed attention and support in recent years, following the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement and the growing recognition of systemic racism in American society. As a Christian, I believe that reparations are not only a matter of justice and equity, but also a reflection of God's character and values. In the Bible, we see numerous examples of God's concern for the oppressed, the marginalized, and the downtrodden. From the Israelites' liberation from slavery in Egypt to the ministry of Jesus among the poor and the outcast, we see a consistent theme of God's love for those who are on the margins of society. One of the key biblical principles that underlie the idea of reparations is the concept of restitution. In the book of Leviticus, we see God commanding the Israelites to make restitution to those whom they have wronged. Leviticus 6, 1-5 says, "If anyone sins and commits a breach of faith against the Lord by deceiving his neighbor in a matter of deposit or security or through robbery, or if he has oppressed his neighbor or has found something lost and lied about it, swearing falsely in any of all the things that people do and sin thereby, if he has sinned and has realized his guilt and will restore what he took by robbery when he got it by oppression or deposit that was committed to him or the lost thing that he found or anything about which he has sworn falsely, he shall restore in full and shall add a fifth to it and give it to him to whom it belongs on the day that he realizes his guilt." This passage emphasizes the importance of making restitution to those who have been wronged and not just restoring what was taken, but adding to it as a form of compensation. This principle of restitution can be applied to the issue of reparations to Black Americans who have suffered centuries of enslavement, discrimination, and systemic oppression. Another biblical principle that supports the idea of reparations is the concept of Jubilee. In Leviticus 25, God commands the Israelites to observe a Jubilee every 50th year, during which all debts are forgiven, all slaves to be set free, and all property to be returned to its original owners. This was a radical idea of economic justice designed to prevent the accumulation of wealth and power in the hands of a few and to ensure that all members of society had equal access to resources and opportunities. The idea of Jubilee can be seen as a model for reparations in that it seeks to address the root causes of inequality and oppression rather than just treating the symptoms. By forgiving debts, freeing slaves, and returning property, Jubilee seeks to create a more just and equitable society, one in which everyone has the opportunity to flourish. As a Christian, I believe paying reparations to Black Americans is only a matter of justice and equity, but also it is a reflection of God's values and character. Through the biblical principles of restitution and Jubilee, we see a model for how we can address the historical and systemic injustices that have plagued our society for far too long. While the issue of reparations is complex and contentious, I believe that as Christians, we have a responsibility to seek justice. I'm often asked the question, why do you care about injustices perpetuated against Black people in America? And why do you speak and write about these issues so frequently? My answer is that we would all do well to care about what happens to our fellow citizens, because what happens to one impacts the lives of all of us eventually. Certainly, black people don't need me to address these issues, as there are far more competent leaders and voices within the black community that do a far better job. But I need to speak up for my own sake. I need to speak up and continue to address the residual racism that hinders my heart from the compassion and empathy that is necessary in our world. If the United States of America is my home, which it is, and I love my nation, then I know that we can all do better in understanding one another. To this end, I continue to write and speak out about these issues. Racism and discrimination are deeply ingrained issues in America, and the mistreatment of black people is a critical issue that needs to be addressed by everyone, not just black individuals or communities. It is imperative for white people to care about the mistreatment of black people in America for several reasons. First of all, recognizing the mistreatment of black people is a fundamental step towards combating racism and creating a more equitable and just society. Racism and discrimination have a profound impact on the lives of black individuals, causing them to experience numerous disadvantages, including lower economic opportunities, unequal treatment in the criminal justice system, and reduced access to quality health care. By acknowledging the existence of these disparities and the systemic factors that contribute to them, white people can help to create the conditions necessary to dismantle racism and discrimination. Addressing the mistreatment of black people is not only a moral obligation, but a civic responsibility. As citizens, it is our responsibility to work towards creating a society that is equitable, just, and inclusive. This requires recognizing and combating the systemic factors that contribute to the mistreatment of black people. By ignoring this issue, white people are not fulfilling their civic responsibilities and are perpetuating the harm that is inflicted on black individuals. As we have witnessed with the murder of George Floyd and most recently the beating death of Tyree Nichols, the mistreatment of black people impacts all members of society regardless of race. Racism and discrimination undermine the fabric of society by dividing communities and promoting mistrust and hatred. When black individuals are mistreated, it creates an environment in which fear, mistrust, and hatred can flourish, eroding the social cohesion that is necessary for a healthy and thriving society. This has an impact on everyone, regardless of race. The mistreatment of black people is an issue that has deep roots in American society. From slavery to segregation and the ongoing impact of systemic racism, the mistreatment of black people is not a new issue. By acknowledging the history of racism and discrimination in America, white people can understand the root causes of these current disparities experienced by black people and take the necessary steps to address them. This is why I speak up. Won't you join me?
We need to say the truth. White people have never been clean. Not now, not ever. The entire history of Europe is a story of people refusing to wash their asses while looking down on everyone else. Let's start with the ancestors you worship so much, medieval and early modern Europeans. People so filthy they were literally scared of water. They believed that bathing opened the pores and let in disease, so instead of washing, they simply wiped themselves down with dry rags and perfume. Imagine thinking water is bad for you while living in streets filled with feces and piss. Doctors warned against bathing, saying that it was too stimulating and would weaken the body. Instead, they told people to rub themselves with dry powders or just change their linens and call it a day. King Louis XIV of France, the Sun King, bathed twice in his entire life. Let that sink in. The most powerful man in Europe smelled like a rotting corpse dipped in cologne. Queen Isabella of Spain also bragged about only bathing twice in her entire life. These people ruled empires while literally festering in their own filth. You want to call other people savages? Let's talk about their hygiene habits, or lack thereof. They didn't wash their clothes. They just aired them out like letting filth touch fresh air was some kind of magical cleaning method. They slept in lice-infested beds and wore the same sweat-soaked, piss-stained clothing for weeks or months at a time. Queen Elizabeth I bragged about only changing her undergarments once a month. Her whole palace must have smelled like a backed-up sewer. Their mouths? A disaster. Europeans didn't brush their teeth. At all. By the time they were 30, their mouths were full of blackened, rotting stumps. King James I of England's breath was so bad, people would write him letters telling him how unbearable it was to be near him. Meanwhile, at the exact same time, indigenous Americans, Africans, and Asians were bathing daily, cleaning their teeth with herbs, and wearing fresh clothes. But Europeans pulled up smelling like roadkill and still had the audacity to call everyone else dirty. Let's talk about the cities you love to glorify: Paris, London, and Rome. These places were open cesspools. People threw their shit and piss into the streets because they didn't have proper sewage systems. London's Thames River was literally so full of human waste that it became toxic. In 1858, the Parliament had to shut down because of the stench, called the Great Stink, was so unbearable. Paris? Just as bad. The streets were covered with garbage, excrement, and dead animals. It was so bad that the air itself was dangerous to breathe. Meanwhile, at the exact same time, the Aztecs had running water, street cleaners, and aqueducts bringing fresh water into the city. So tell me again, who are the real savages? But let's not pretend this filth is just in the past. White people are still dirty today. You have to be convinced to wash your legs in the shower. Doctors are telling you to wash your damn feet because so many of you think that you can just let the water trickle down and that's enough. The 2020s exposed how many white celebrities don't bathe daily. Ashton Kutcher, Kristen Bell, Jake Gyllenhaal, all proudly claiming they don't shower unless they see dirt. White parents are still proudly saying that they only bathe their kids when they start to smell. Imagine raising the next generation of walking biohazards. You normalized wearing outside clothes to bed, spreading whatever germs you caught from the outside world directly onto your sheets. You go to bed without washing your hands, your face, or brushing your teeth, and wonder why your skin looks like a medieval battlefield. Meanwhile, Black, Latino, Asian, and indigenous cultures have always prioritized hygiene. Africans were using shea butters, scented oils, and natural soaps before Europeans even knew what soap was. Indigenous Americans bathed in rivers daily using herbal cleansers. South Asian and Middle Eastern cultures developed some of the earliest bathhouses, perfumes, and skincare regimens. Latinos are known for showering twice a day and keeping their homes spotless. And yet, white people still have the nerve to act like they invented civilization. The reality? You have never been clean. Your ancestors weren't clean. Your great-grandparents weren't clean. Your hygiene habits, questionable at best. Cope.
So now, welcome back. I'm here once again with my honest thought about the same and the whole thing as a whole. So a few things are coming out from the clip that we watched. Many white Americans are now coming out to condemn injustices that are being done to the black people or the black community. They're coming out with strong sentiments on how maybe the government could come up with a model for compensation for their past, the past that they've been through. We can talk of the slave trade, the racism, the colonization, and all that. But that is story for another day. So as you've seen from this gentleman, he's saying a few of the things that can be done to support the black community can be through paying reparations, as a way of showing remorseful and seeking justice and equality, which has also been mentioned in the Bible if you're a Christian several times, and there are books that have been mentioned. This can also be done by supporting the black-led organizations. There are so many of them in the world right now. And yeah, those are some of the ways that you can speak out during such times. A famous philosopher once said that during the time of injustice, if you do not speak out against the oppressor, then you're taking sides with him. So it's important that we all speak out and show concern for all this. Yeah, that is it for today. Take a minute to subscribe, like, and share my video so that I get motivated to produce more content like this. Just to mention that I see a lot of you supporting me, sharing my videos, liking my videos. But I noticed that a bigger percentage, like let's see here, 99% or 97% are not subscribed to your channel. So please take a minute to subscribe, share, and like so that I can be able to produce more content like this. Also, I want to thank those who are supporting me through the Buy Me Coffee link, and all that. I see you and I really appreciate that. So cheers, and I'll see you guys in the next video.